has the story you tell yourself about you changed in the last number of years?
Well, that's a very good question. Um, I've got a lot better at kind of understanding the flaws of the story the brain wants to tell of us. So the brain tells us a story not because it's interested in the truth of who you are or the truth of the world. The brain tells a story of who we are in order to kind of motivate us and to get us out there in the world doing human things, striving, overcoming obstacles. So that story is not often not accurate, and actually the story can often work against you. The brain wants you out there achieving, and when you don't achieve, that's painful. The brain so I've become much better at kind of standing aside from the story, I think, and
Right.
you can never, obviously it is the conscious experience of the story, you can never kind of free yourself of it. But I think the more you understand what's happening, the more the kind of more you are able to not allow the story to overwhelm you and to kind of control it.
So I'm wondering then, I mean, this capacity to stand outside yourself and notice your own story. In some ways, I think of that as one version of emotional intelligence, this kind of noticing of yourself and then deciding, hey, is this helpful or is it not helpful? Now, what do you notice the story or the stories you have of you that are most helpful these days?
What's the story that's most helpful? Well, I actually think what's helpful is understanding what's going on that isn't the story. And so the great revelation I had, which fueled my recent book, The Status Game, is, I've written two or three books now which focus on the story, the conscious experience of life. But what's going on under the hood, what's that subconscious, what's going on subconsciously? And so the great sort of revelation for me was that subconsciously it isn't a story. Subconscious is a game. We're playing games all the time, and we're playing, really, I think 3 games. We're playing a survival game where it's about literally the survival of ourselves and our genes. We play connection games. We try to get people to like us and love us and be attracted to us, and but we also play status games. We're constantly joining groups and playing. If you think about human groups, any human group, whether it's a corporation or a political group or a religion, it's a status game. The better you play by the rules, the higher you go up. So and that was the focus of my latest book, where I focused on the status game in particular, because I felt like it was a book that hadn't been written yet, whereas there's lots of books about connection. So I think that's been the big transformational thing, where I think one of the things that one of the ways that the story the brain tells us gets us wrong is in this idea of happy endings. We believe in the story, we believe in happy endings. We believe if I get X, I'm going to be happy, and it's never true, because you're not actually living a story, you're playing a game, and once you've got X, you want the next. It's like it never ends. This game never ends. There's no like finishing square on this Monopoly board. It's a status game, and your status, you can't take your status home with you in a box and go, this is my status now. It's constantly in flux. You can be up there at the beginning of a day and down there at the end. So that's, I think that's made me a lot wiser about life. And even though when you earn status, it's joyous still, and when you lose status, it's painful. Now I go, well, it's just the game, man. It's just the game. It hurts, but it's just the game, and it will, and there'll be a new one to play tomorrow. And it's also the idea that I think the other thing that when we kind of experience life as a story, we feel like this story that we're living right now is the only one that matters. And actually, when you look at it at life in terms of the game, you realize that actually we're playing multiple games at once. We got, just because one game ends badly, the next game might end brilliantly. So I think understanding that even though life feels like a story, it's actually a game. I think that's been a great revelation to me.
Now, the smart thing to do right now is to hit the subscribe button.